part of your diagnosis already. And if you wanted, you can also drag and drop this assessment into a chronic problem list, and that will become your chronic problem list. If you are a physician who also does differential diagnosis, then you can do that over here also using differential diagnosis, which can also facilitate in better clinical reporting and evaluation and management. Finally, we come to, in our clinical flow, the plan. And here in the plan, we have about 6 sections. You can order labs from here. Your labs would be listed. Let's say you're ordering a CBC based on a primary diagnosis. What is the priority of it? If it is going electronically, then you just select that particular lab that is going to electronically. If it is based on specimens, so as we were talking about earlier, comprehensive lab management. And then once you click on OK, that lab would be ordered accordingly. Similar concept applies to the medication and prescription management. I can select the drugs from the common list of common drugs that I have that I would normally prescribe, or I can search another drug very easily and add that to my common list. As we spoke earlier, you very easily and add that to my common list. As we spoke earlier, you have contraindications available over here, and or any kind of adverse reactions. And this is why I selected something deliberately that would bring this red blinker on, and that red blinker shows you the prospective alert. That in this case there is a side effect for wheezing or a duplicate therapy alert for anticonvulsants and benzodiazepines. So which is why I particularly selected this, so you can see that the system gives those prospective alerts in the case of medications that are prescribed in a contraindicatory manner. A few other things in this plan. Now this is your final plan. You can put your procedure in here, when the patient needs to be followed up for an appointment, a 1 month or a 2 week, you can select that. Any recommendations that you want to put in, and these are also customizable. For example, patient needs to do breathing exercises or physical activity. They are loaded in here. In this case, let's say, for example, patient needs to be on a low-fat diet. Then you select that. And all of this will become part of their chart, as well as you will shortly see that this will be available at the time of patient checkout, so they know that you have prescribed them both clinically as well as psychologically, or any kind of physical recommendations that you have them. You can also add a group, health education group, at the end. For example, in this case, I would add asthma, so they can take reading material then. And we know that asthma is already added. If you wanted to add another group over here for them to read based on, let's say, cough, then you can add that over here also. All of this would eventually be available at the time of checkout. Before we get to checkout screen, let me just move, and if you notice, I'm going to switch to the front desk, because the front desk person will have this homepage open. So if you can visualize for a second that this is what the front desk person has, and this was the home page. This was what the physician was working on. So now when the patient is ready to check out, the front desk person will click on this checkout button. And in this checkout button, what they will see is that all the information that you had selected, whether it was a lab or medication or any health education group, you will be able to print that in a centralized area. Again, this eliminates from the very beginning, just like we eliminated the paper trail from the sign-in sheet. You notice that throughout this workflow, the paper trail has been eliminated, except for in cases where it's absolutely necessary. For example, lab requisition order forms that might be printed, that need to be printed, because the lab companies may require the actual printed form in addition to the electronic ordering or sending of results. All of this clinical flow documentation will eventually lead to a full progress note, and I'm going to show you an example of a full progress note, which again can be customized according to your specification. Whether it is something as minor as what type of letterhead you're going to use, to something as major as insertion of diagrams or images within the progress note. So one of the things that sometimes we cannot do in a manual chart is to be able to insert that. But now you can do that right in your progress note. Ignore the red and blue notation of the writing, because that just shows what was written as a predefined sentence and what was entered as an answer value. So as I scroll through the whole note, you notice that this is a complete progress note that was a resultant of the whole documentation that we did, which then can be further used as a consult letter or a referral letter or a full progress note to be printed out with the complete electronic signature at the bottom. Everything from the vital signs to history to review of system, physical exam, assessment, and plan, everything is completely documented in the